All right. Hello. Good evening. I felt I was up for a evening stream. Um, yeah. So we were working on like using queries for using queries and mutations, and I had, I guess, like a personal revelation around deriving data, because I've been through this journey of like manually doing data fetching, normalizing the normalizing, and all of this stuff. But now that we have this concept of a query, it's possible to just think about data as queries. So in this case, I have the dinners query, which is the query for the dinners. Like, that's fine. But then I also have the possibility to look at a single dinner, right? So you can imagine that in the context of navigating directly to a dinner. I don't want to fetch all the dinners, right? To look at that one dinner. So I also have dinner queries. But this is a record because this is more dynamic, right? Because you only have one endpoint for dinners, but dinner queries depends on the ID of the dinner. But then it's not only in that context, it's also like when I'm rendering out the calendar and I might have assigned a dinner on a specific day of the week. And that's just an ID reference. So now I also want to be able to look at the dinner in the context of like that calendar weekday. And then I just do exactly the same. And now wherever I want to look at a specific dinner, I use the ID with the dinner queries. Like I query dinner. So it's consistent in that sense. Yeah. And then if I have changes to my dinners, like I'm mutating, like I'm adding a dinner, for example, I revalidate the dinners query. But then there might be other situations, like you might have collaboration. So maybe you'll get an event on a change to a specific dinner, right? Maybe someone else added, someone changed a specific dinner. Well, in that case, I would use the ID of the dinner that was changed and revalidate that specific dinner query. But if I got a notification about something being added or removed, then I would revalidate the dinners query. So all of this is very interesting to me because I've been like manually trying to organize my state in a way that makes it easier to derive and bringing in computeds and all of this stuff. But you can just use these queries and it does simplify a ton. Now, in the context of Firebase, it's a little bit tricky because these subscriptions aren't like, they trigger every time I change something. So I think there's going to be like a bit of unnecessary revalidation happening, but that's not a big deal because Firebase is super efficient in the sense that, as I understand it, it kind of knows when it's in sync with the server. So if I like call get or get all on a dinner, it won't actually go to the server and ask for it when it knows that it's up to date. So that's fine. But yeah, it probably will hit. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how this works. Anyways, so now I set up like the dinner stuff. And what's unique about dinners is that it's not only dinners query and dinner queries, and that I have an actual list of dinners, but I also have individual dinner pages, but also within a dinner, either a list of dinners or inside an actual dinner, there's this image query, dinner image query, which is to get the actual image of the dinner. And that's also just a query. It's like I'm using a reference from the dinner, to query the image. So that's super nice. And then what we're going to do now is just continue doing this. So I'm going to delete this. We don't need a dinner state anymore, because that's also something I dropped here. Is there's this interesting aspect of like being able to wrap state management around data. And you can still do that here. Maybe we could explore that later. So currently I'm just using the actual DTOs for a dinner, where I say, well, sorry, this is a dinner. I was confusing it with the grocery. Yeah, maybe we should just jump to the groceries now and see how we would solve that. So we have grocery state. And what we want to do here is that we want to make the groceries also a query. So I'm going to say groceries API get all. So now I'm getting all the groceries. And then we have add grocery, create groceries. Yeah, sorry. So we're not going to have the subscription here anymore. So we're going to re-add the subscriptions later, where it actually makes sense. So it actually we need to have subscriptions on groceries, because that's actually a friction in the family, is that I kind of have the groceries list open and my partner adds something last minute and it doesn't pop up, right? Very annoying. Okay, and then we have add grocery. So now we need to actually point to groceries.groceries. Oh, groceries. You know, I'm going to call these things state. This is going to be a convention. So you name the thing and you put state at the end to emphasize like the file name represents that this is state management. And it doesn't conflict with components and stuff. And then internally, I'm going to have a convention of like using state as like, this is the thing I'm going to return. So state groceries revalidate. We're going to await that revalidation. Cool. And then, is there anything else? Oh yeah, and then we have the filter here. So I'm gonna add, so I'm gonna call this filtered grocery. Oh, this is gonna be interesting. So I'm gonna have something called filtered groceries. So these are just the groceries, and then I'm gonna have filtered groceries. And the question is like, there's two ways I can do this. I can do what I just did, which is like have a method called, or a function called filter groceries, and then I pass in a filter from a component. Or I can just take full ownership in the whole filter. So I have like filter here, filter, and then filtered groceries becomes a computed instead. And then filter groceries with state.filter. And what's, sorry, this should be filter groceries. So the good thing, filter groceries. The good thing about this is that it gets cached, right? So whenever I use that list of, whenever I show the filter groceries, if there's other state changes happening in the component that's not related to actually the grocery items, those filtered groceries will be cached. And that's kind of nice. It doesn't, like, of course it doesn't matter for this app, but it's interesting, like when do you say, this is such a perfect example. Like, it's perfectly fine to just have local component state for the filter. But then you can also argue, like, if I add, like, I type something, I move away from that page, and then I go back to groceries, should it remember the filter I had? So now we just ensure that the filter state will stay there, which is also a nice thing. What is interesting though is that the computed will actually not be cached then when I move back and forward. And the reason is that computed state is based on actual observation subscriptions. So only the groceries component will kind of subscribe to that computed, and when I unmount it, there are no other subscribers. So it kind of goes expired. So next time I access filtered groceries, it's going to recalculate it. So it's only valid as long as something is observing the filtered groceries. And it has to be this way, or you would have memory leaks. But I'm going to do this. I'm happy with this. So we're going to return. Yeah, so what's interesting now is that the groceries here is a query. So what I can do, I can say groceries equals state groceries value, or let's just do empty, right? Because I don't know like the query, like I might not have fetched the groceries yet, right? But that's fine. That's perfectly fine. So let's do groceries. I wonder why that thing is giving an error. Oh, yeah, sorry, it's grocery state here. Do I really need to have this? Or does this? No, I don't need this now. Great. Yes. So, but the question now is, should these groceries be grocery DTO, or should they be grocery state, where I actually put shop on them? But I don't think it needs to be that way. For me, it's better to just have shop grocery here. And then we're going to have a reactive mutation for that, which is shop grocery. And that's going to be an async function, oops, which is shop grocery. And we need to take an ID there. And what was the thingy? That's the thingy, grocery state. That's the ID. And then we're going to await that. And then we're going to await state groceries revalidate. Yeah, sorry. Oh, yeah, sorry. So this needs to be an actual object. Because I've said that, like, we could change that so that the mutation doesn't have to be an object. The thing is that I don't want, the point is that shop grocery now is a mutation, and it shows you optimistic params. And I don't want that to be an array. That feels weird. So to me, it's better to make that like, yeah, but this is also a little bit confusing. Like, why is this giving an error? But you often don't think about arguments to a function as an array, right? That's also weird. But what we could do as a compromise is that we allow a single argument, right? So if you just have an ID, you can have an ID. Okay, we're going to do that. I think that at least that makes sense. So for mutation, like we said now that it needs to be params, we can just make it P. It does not have to be. Yeah, and we can even say, okay, that's interesting. It simplifies that thing, because now it can also be void. Oh, let's see. So we're going to say P equals void. And then if P actually extends void, there's no arguments, or there's a single argument. But it doesn't matter what that argument is. It can be a string, it can be a number, or an object. Again, if you want to send multiple arguments to a mutation, then you kind of have to know about this behavior. But yeah, I think it's unlikely that you want to do that. Either you send like a single string argument or you send an object. Let's see. I'm noticing I'm a little bit tired, but we're gonna keep pushing. Let's see. Yes. Yarn build. It allow any single argument to mutation. It's a good thing when you actually start describing your commit messages sensibly. It means you're going from proof of concept to something that actually starts to look like something. Oh, we're gonna do one more thing. Export const reactive equals makeup. Yeah, and then I can. Okay, we're gonna fix that later. Yeah, maybe this should rather be. Yeah, I don't want to do that now. Anyways, we can do that later. Okay, yarn and Mobx Lite latest. Cool. So now you should be fine with just having a string here. Cool. That's awesome. So that mutation is going to have an optimistic param. Is it called params or param? Optimistic param? No, sorry, pending param. It params. It should be param, not params. Yeah. Naming stuff is hard. We're gonna revisit this. No biggie. Cool. So I think it will be nice to talk about like how would I actually apply a subscription here. So the point, as I said, is that the grocery list it's not like collaborative, but it should at least show updates. So, but the problem is that every time I do like shop grocery or add grocery, it's gonna trigger that subscription. But so ideally, I wouldn't revalidate here. I would like wait for the subscription to trigger. That would be kind of the best way to do it. But there's no way to like wait for the subscription to trigger to kind of confirm that it worked. So I have to revalidate. But then again, if I go to groceries API and I do subscribe all, for example, and whenever or the subscribe changes, doesn't matter, but let's say subscribe all, and I revalidate, that means that whenever I add a grocery or I shop a grocery, I first wait to revalidate and then I kind of revalidate again. So there's no clear separation of, or I could like drop this, right? But if I then use an optimistic update, it could flicker because this might trigger after this promise is done resolving. But as I said, Firebase most likely knows how to deal with this, so it won't like duplicate those requests. So it's perfectly fine to do this. I think we can test it, or we should test it. Is there some way we can like actually run this now without everything breaking? Let's see if we can get it running. I'm very curious like what actually happens there. So there's no undisposed, no data. No undispose. Okay, so this is kind of working now. I guess the weak state is a little bit... Okay, I think we're going to drop weeks for now. I'm going to do this. And then we're going to do this. Let's see if we can... Because this is something else we have to look at. Let's see if we can get this running. So I have family scrum here. So I think we're just gonna comment out the whole next week thing. Like so. And then on the actual dashboard, we're also gonna comment out don't I have current week calendar here? Oh, I already commented it out. Okay, let's try this. So yarn dev, see if it runs. 5174. This is how Adam and me communicate. There's a lot of hearts. Which file is this? Main TSX. Yeah, so we need session state. This is not browser. This is just environment. Session state. And now it's environment camera. Mobx Lite. You have to excuse me. Maybe we'll... Hopefully it works now. Okay, let's see. Groceries.filter is not a function. Oh, yeah. Let's see. Where's the groceries? Yes, we don't actually have that now. Let's rather do groceries filter. Yeah, we have to add a function to change that. Groceries at filter.length. Yeah, and then add grocery is actually based on the filter. We don't have to reset it. Let's see, we have to change this. So name now would actually be groceries.filter. Groceries. Oh, sorry, filter. And then we immediately want to, yeah, that's const name equals state.filter, state.filter equals blah. And then we want to set the name here, blah, 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 blah. Groceries. And then groceries.filtered groceries. And then we don't have this one. We have groceries.shop grocery. And we need to give it a grocery ID. Oh, yeah, sorry. Mutate. Again, this is like insanely fast, so I'm not gonna like actually show anything here, but we need to add this function for changing the filter. Let's just call it set filter. Are you smart enough? And you are. Thank you. Groceries, groceries set filter. Cool. There we go. Oh, it's broken again. Oh, look at that. It actually lets me know. That's nice. Oh, that's interesting. Oh, sorry. Oops. No, I clicked one of them. My partner's gonna be... Ah, shit, what did I remove? uh, anyways, we're gonna do some testing. We're gonna see how often it reconciles. I'm very curious. So first we're gonna just, let's call it render, console.log render. And then we're gonna grocery state. We're just gonna take a look at what we're doing. So we're gonna add the grocery, I think. Console.log adding, revalidating, and then we're gonna look at the subscription, revalidating subscription. Okay, cool. Okay, so I'm okay, so that's interesting. Render. Oh, that is interesting because when so when I did get and then it revalidated the subscription, it still only did like one render. So if I do, I don't know, what do we need? Let's just call it test. We can remove this, that's fine. Add test. What happened there? Adding, and then it renders, of course. Oh, and then it revalidates the subscription. And it renders, and then revalidating and renders again. But then it revalidating subscription again. Oh, that's interesting. So that's quite inefficient. Just 2 seconds, I'm so thirsty. I'll be right back. Oh, let's see. Okay, so when I added it, it renders because I'm resetting the filter. And then it hits revalidating subscription because it was added, and then it does a render. And then it hits the actual revalidating of the actual like add grocery function. Like it hits this part, and then it revalidates again, which makes it render. And then because I'm getting, I wonder if it's because first of all, don't understand why it's rendering when I'm revalidating. I need to check that. I shouldn't really be doing that. Maybe I'm changing the query the wrong way. Anyways, I wonder if when I'm calling like get all, for some reason it triggers the subscription again. But okay, I want to debug this because the only thing we're actually looking at here is groceries, filter, and then filtered groceries. And filtered groceries is looking at the value. So it would be like me changing the value. I'm gonna, let's see. Filter. I'm curious if that one runs again. So what's interesting is here it's quite efficient. Because even though I'm revalidating on the subscription, like I'm rendering with the filter and there's nothing there. And then it's revalidating the subscription and then it renders again with the data. But then then I was using get all and I did like a subscription revalidation. So I was able to handle that. But when I do, okay, let's just do test 2. Yeah, and it should change the filter. And I'm adding it, render, yeah, I'm changing the filter, so it's running the filter thing again. And then I'm revalidating the subscription. Yeah, and this I don't understand. The filter shouldn't have run again now. So it seems like when I run revalidate, it does some internal state change in the query that it shouldn't do. Let's see, revalidate. So it runs execute query, and then it changes is revalidating, which is fine. Oh. Oh yeah. Of course. No, of course revalidating. It was just it resolved the revalidation, of course. Like it's actually set the new value. And even though the value didn't change, I set the new value, so it should run filter again. So that's fine. Which then in turn runs a render, and then I get to the revalidating. Yeah, so I guess it doesn't matter as much. Yeah, exactly. Oh yeah, I think I see what's happening. It's because I have a getter. Oh, but I shouldn't have that anymore. Unwrap getter. Yeah, sorry, we should remove this. Unwrap getter. That's not a thing anymore. I wonder what actually happens now. That was part of the old thing. Cool. Okay, so we're gonna fix that. I wonder what will happen now, and then we can fix the other thing, because I want this to be parameters. Oh, sorry. Parameters type of make observable. So you can treat it the same way. Oh shit, doesn't it always return? That's interesting. Target overrides options. Find that interesting. Why did it... what's the actual error? Is there some option to make observable that makes it not act as... This is overrides, that's fine. Name, that's weird. Okay, let's just fix it. Cool, so now you can pass like overrides and stuff. Oh, hi Arturo. Sorry if I butchered your name. Arturo. I'm trying to speak in a Spanish accent. That's really bad. Sorry about that. But yes, thank you. Yeah, the cerebral days. That's a long time ago. I have an email. I sent an email to Brian, one of the people that he was he was more of a cheerleader than like he has a family. He had kids at the time. Yeah, Arthur, yeah. It was so weird. I felt I had like a really good Spanish. Like I know the sound of a Spanish accent, right? But there's something very different actual pronouncing it. Anyway, so I sent an email to Brian. I said we have to do like a hangout for Cerebral. Just build like a to-do MVC kind of app with Cerebral with like the old gang. I still have that email in my inbox because he was pumped for it. Would be fun. Maybe we could do a stream of it. That would be fun. But yeah, talking about kids, that's the reason I've been out of the game. I was out of the game for some time. Just having kids, it's too much work. But now they're a bit older, so I can even in the evening have energy to actually go downstairs and stream a bit like we're doing now. Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, it's really like like my personal proudest moment with Cerebral. It's so fun. You have to let's see this if I can find it. So Ducky architecture. Yeah, so there's a couple of let's see. Christian Alfoni. Yeah, so it's this one. Ducky architecture planning. That's an actual recording that I was unaware of when I presented the idea of using Cerebral and Firebase for like the startup. That's the first project. Well, the second project I used Cerebral. But where is that other thing? Yeah, pre-baby event. You should check this one out. It's kind of presenting. Oh, what did I do? Oh, I think I closed the comments. It's kind of presenting. Oh, look, someone wrote something. Where's that from? Is this a real world project startup you're working on? Oh, interesting. Anyways, so this video is like presenting how we work, the actual Ducky project where we use Cerebral, and it talks about everything from how we manage components to write code and tests and everything. It's a really cool thing. And that, look at that. That's Brian right there. Yeah, it's a lot of fun going back and like reflect and find like these kinds of resources from those days, because it was a big success like from an engineering standpoint, because we were a tiny startup and we didn't have like a bunch of engineers. It was me and a previous colleague and their friend, and then the others weren't that experienced. A couple of other people who weren't that experienced, like one guy, he started programming, working on this project, which was quite a complex project. Nathan, and he actually works there still, like after 10 years, which is really awesome. And they're still using Cerebral, and they're still around. Like startups, if you manage to get to 10 years, like you're in the minor percent, and they're not even for profit, right? It's crazy. Anyways, I'm digressing. Okay, so let's ship it. I wonder if this is gonna change something. Because now when we're setting the value, it depends if Firebase is keeping the same reference. If it does, then we're gonna save some renders. Because we were setting a new getter value every time, so that was considered a new value from Mobx's perspective. But now it could be the same value. Let's see, git add, remove getter, and allow full make auto observable params. And then publish 430 149. Okay. Yarn and Mobx Lite latest. Yeah, we're not going to spend a lot of time diving into that if it's the same, but it's just, yeah, it's interesting to me. So let's test 2. Let's do another render filter, revalidating subscription filter render. That's fine because we got the data. And if I do, okay, let's see, test, add, boop. Was it the same? I think it was the same. So I'm adding it, it renders. Yeah, that's because I reset the filters, that's fine. And then why does the filter run again? Why does the filter? Oh, sorry. Of course the filter runs again because I reset the filter. That's fine. So yeah, and then it's revalidating a subscription. It's filtered renders, revalidating filter render. Yeah, but I don't understand why this happens. But this is Firebase. So the point is that this kind of subscription doesn't really make sense. It's kind of annoying. Because when I revalidate, it runs get all again. Oh, look at this. This is the reason it's failing. Because when I get the docs, I'm mapping over them. So I always create a new array. Yeah, but it might return cache data or fail if you're offline. Yeah, but still the data is like, I'm still creating a new array here. Anyways, this is not a huge deal, but it just shows that they're not that compatible. Like, how would you actually do this? If I were to add, if I wanted to have collaboration, and I added a grocery, and then I want to know when other people add groceries. And then I get a subscription, I get an event whenever someone adds grocery, but I would also get an event if I add a grocery. And then yeah, so I guess the whole point here is that I shouldn't revalidate here. Like, what happens if I do, like, just do this? Maybe this is really the way to do it with Firebase, because this subscribe all, this triggers whenever I add a grocery or shop a grocery. Yeah. Render filter, render filter. Let's just get rid of that thing and then do a test. So I have the thing here now, and it does a render filter because I reset the input. And of course, this could have been its own component in that sense. So but that's not the point. It's not the point that this is a performance issue. It's just understanding how to deal with Firebase subscriptions. And then it's revalidating based on the subscription. And then it revalidates again based on the subscription. That's the thing I don't understand. Why does it run twice? Is it because I go and get? I call get? I find that curious. Yeah, that's kind of annoying. Maybe we can search for that. I notice when I subscribe to a collection in Firebase, and when I notice when I subscribe to a collection and get an event where I call get docs on the same collection, the subscription triggers again. What is up with that? And maybe I have a bug. Maybe this isn't, but maybe it's like a common thing. Yeah, and like, yeah, kids will always be a priority. Yeah, they should be. I remember, like, I'm very like with our first kid during my fraternity leave. Like I tried to do open source, and I remember I got very annoyed with our daughter. It was like not even about a year old. Not even a year old. Like when she wouldn't take her nap, or like I had all these expectations of when I would have time to do coding, and it wasn't good. And when we had our son, I didn't touch my computer for like the 4 months I was doing fraternity leave, and it's actually been one of the most it's the time where I've been most what's it called, at bliss like it was just calm. I just remember it as very, very calm and just being very, very present, which is very interesting. But there's like being present and feeling calm is like one aspect of living, but like doing open source and doing this stuff and learning and playing and trying to understand and building things, that's also a part of life, right? So it's the balance. But yeah, it was a very interesting experience. Like, who am I when I'm not doing this stuff? Anyways, this is getting too philosophical. This is expected behavior in Fire. So when you call the getDocs on a collection that already has an active snapshot listener, it can update the local cache, which then causes the listener to fire again, even if the actual document hasn't changed. Okay. Oh. Oh, then interesting. Oh. Interesting. Let's see. On snapshot, is that like options? No. On. Where do I do that? On snapshot. Where do I? Is it the listener option? Sorry, I have my query on next. Where do I set? I cannot see it on snapshot. Interesting. Oh, okay. I do it here. False. Interesting. Is it the same here? No, it's only on subscribe all. Yeah, here again. False. Okay, cool. I learned something. So let's look at it again. I'm gonna test. Doop. Add. No, it still ran twice. That didn't help. Why? Why? Include metadata changes. That is interesting. Why didn't that work? That should have worked. I'm gonna try once more, just to be perfectly certain. Yeah, adding, revalidating, and do I have double now? Do I have double? Grocery state. No, now I even don't have double. I'm just adding the grocery. Oh, sorry. Adding the grocery triggers a subscription because it was added. What could happen here though is that it updates the local cache. And then it updates from... is there... you can pass an option a second to control various such as method that change. It still happens. Could it be because Firebase has updates the local cache when I add something, and then it updates again when it is added on the server? Any way to turn off the local cache? or at least optimistic updates. That will be interesting, because then we'll have the behavior that's kind of normal, at least. At least. But it's still interesting, like how would you actually do this? If I have a revalidate approach and I want to know whenever someone adds a grocery and I get a notification about that and I get the ID of the grocery that was added, but I don't get any data. So I revalidate my list of groceries. But now if I was the one that added it, oh, wait a minute. I think that's actually a guarantee that you can get from the server. So the guarantee is that when you actually perform a mutation before the server responds, it will actually notify about the change. Is by design, yeah. Yeah. And check wherever the snapshot is from the... Oh, interesting. Oh, interesting. Okay. We can actually make this happen, I think. I'm learning new things all the time. So we're not going to trigger on metadata, and then if snapshot has pending or from cache, return. We're not going to do anything if it's from the cache. Does this have the same? Yeah. Okay, let's try again. It's still happening. What the fuck? What the hell? Or okay, let's try again. Test. There we go. Okay, but that's interesting. Now it behaves the way we want with revalidation. So we don't care about any local pending things because we are controlling that ourselves. Okay, interesting. I want to check something though. Oh. Do I actually... Oh yeah, because I do. Yeah, you see it popped up a little bit later. So it is valuable to have optimistic... okay, but this is nice. This is really nice. I really want to play some Path of Exile too. But this was super awesome because now we actually have the behavior we want. And I want to check again what's happening now if I do this. Well, yeah, we have the render. Test. Oh, this is... Yeah, now it rendered twice again. Okay. Yeah, but now I think we have the problem. Yeah, now I think we have the problem. Because if I add an optimistic grocery now, it's gonna hit this line before it hits this line. let's see, revalidate from sub. It's definitely gonna do that. Yeah. So we revalidated there. So it's gonna cause a jank. So the right way to do revalidate is here. But I'll also get a subscription because I did actually add new data. Well, that's the thing. I didn't really do that. That's the thing I was hoping Firebase would actually handle. Well, you know what? I think it's the same data. The thing that it doesn't understand is because in the callback, I am creating a new array. That's the problem. Yeah, I don't know why I got so stuck on this. It isn't really the like theme of this. Yeah, it kind of sucks that you're not actually getting. Yeah. Is he going? Oh. Yeah. No, it's something I just have to think about. It's not like a huge deal. It's just annoying. These are the kinds of things that annoys me. So yeah. So what I could do here is like instead of calling this again, I could like yeah, because if I subscribe, I'm grabbing the data. This returns. Yeah, I have a feeling this is also gonna be like new every time. Yeah. Yeah, that's kind of annoying. But I guess this happened before as well, like without me even noticing it. Because it did update on local cache and then it updated again. Yeah. No, I think we're gonna stop there. It is kind of annoying though. Because I have to revalidate here. But that means... Well... yeah. Like I can do subscribe changes here. Subscribe changes. That's the one I was actually gonna do. I wonder what happens if I use subscribe changes. Yeah, exactly the same. But what would happen here is that I would actually have changes and then changes dot yeah, for each. Yeah, I don't know. So you have like a change type, like it can be added, modified, or removed. The whole point is that you don't really care about this unless it's a modified. Because if it's modified, then we, well, not in this case, but if it was a dinner and it was modified, we would want to revalidate that specific query. So you kind of have the same issue there. You're revalidating the query when you're, well, yeah, this kind of bothers me. Yeah, the thing that bothers me the most is like, how would you actually deal with this? Because it doesn't make sense to know that, like, because a subscription would run on like a WebSocket connection. So even if you were, and if you had two browser windows open, you would want that subscription to go through, because you could say, no, you shouldn't send notifications to the person that created the resource. But what if you have two browser windows and then you don't get the notification in the other window? And then maybe you can say, oh, well, that notification channel, that's going to hold the session ID. So there's an actual session ID that's going to ensure this. But that's like, how do people do this? Yeah. Whatever. Whatever. Like, again, it's not a huge deal. It's just because the way this has to work is that we have to revalidate here for the optimistic to work. But then it will revalidate here again when, yeah, it will just revalidate here again. So every mutation causes two renders. But I guess like the actual data, that's the same. So if I had like a component for each of the items in the list, those wouldn't change. So but it's like, yeah, I just don't like it. I just don't like it. Anyways, this was actually super nice. We cleaned up some stuff. I'm like overall like super pumped about this. It's just that yeah, since we have this subscription thing, it just pokes at something that's not intuitive to me, that I can't like answer. I can accept it to be the way it is, and it would certainly be fine for this app, but it creates an itch with me. So yeah, I'm gonna get stuck on that for a little bit, but we're progressing all the time, and that's super nice. So yeah, okay, have a nice evening, and we'll talk tomorrow morning, I guess. Bye bye.